out of 7 billion people in the world. Look at Islam. 3. So now, this is out of a population of 2 billion people. So you look at the impact. In modern times, 50 times the number of Nobel Prizes, 1/100th the population, 5,000 times the impact. I lay awake at night asking how many secrets of the universe lay undiscovered because 2 billion people are no longer participating in that exercise. A community, a culture where that was the highest regarded activity in the land 1,000 years ago. What problems are not being addressed because of the intellectual power that is no longer applied to solving those problems? Now, how about the United States? The United States had a good run in the 20th century. How about the 21st? I remember we even tried to invent the 21st century, right? This is what the 21st century looked like in the 1960s. This wasn't just drugs, okay? Some of it might have been drugs, but we were trying to picture a future. And none of this came to pass. And I don't fully understand why, but I do know that in the United States, we're losing it. We have some going on, yes. But when I think of the major contributions the United States made to our civilization and culture in the 20th century, and then we're now in the 21st, I see things like this. I see this, right? Here's a newspaper headline. Half the schools in the district are below average. And I'm thinking, that's kind of what an average is, isn't it? It's kind of requires, that's what that is. Right? So this is the country I now hail from that has headlines like this. And we have politicians, I've changed my views 360 degrees on that. So, just to remind you, 360 degrees is 360 degrees. You haven't changed a bit. And I wondered, maybe this was a mathematically literate member of Congress who wanted you to think he changed his mind but didn't. Then it would be using math for diabolical influence. I don't know what's worse. I can tell you what tomorrow looks like. We have data. Here's a map of the world. This map has countries drawn on it in proportion to their area they would have on a globe, which means it's just a regular map. Okay, so now, just so we're on the same page. So I will now distort the area of each country based on how much scientific creativity. I'm a scientist, so I come to this not as an ad person, but as a scientist, but it's all related. If you're in a creative culture, you invent new ways to solve problems. You discover problems you didn't even know were there previously. Okay. I will now distort the area of each country. If you're doing a lot of science research, your area will grow relative to other countries. Less, it will shrink. Let's see what it looks like. You say, oh, hey, so what's Tyson saying that the United States is fading? We're looking pretty fat and happy up there. All right, hold on to that for a minute. Look at Europe is huge, color-coded to distinguish Eastern Bloc, original Eastern Bloc in blue shades versus Western and pink shades. One of the great tragedies of this map is Africa practically disappears. Look at Japan, it's huge on this compared with its actual area on the world. So notice, all I plotted was science creativity, and this is also a plot of health and wealth and economic security. A whole lot of things track that. Creativity, as manifest in a culture, shows up in so many different ways. Now, this is not the actual one we should care about, though. We want to look at the trend in your science research. The trend. What is it today versus 10 years ago? Are you flat, are you on the rise, or are you on the decline? This is the future. There's the fading of the United States. There's the rising up. Europe is even bigger. Africa even smaller. Japan even bigger. There's China rising up. That's the map of tomorrow. You want to track creativity. You want to track the future. There's a map for you. Now I wonder, how come we've talked about the fading of the United States for a long time, but there's still a lot happening there. So I think the fading was delayed because we just have a culture of irreverence. In the United States, you could go to a mall, there'd be a 6-year-old boy or girl, and the parent would say, oh, come over here, Junior, come over here, Mayor. No! I want to go to the, no! If you saw that, in America, you thought that's just a kid. In many other cultures of the world, that's not how you behave when you're a 5 or 6-year-old relative to your parents, okay? There's a level of respect and dignity given to the adult class, especially to your teachers, your sensei. These are people who you learn from and you respect. And I always wondered, if you cannot correct your elders, if you cannot say they got something wrong, if you're not allowed to do something different, are you then locked into their understanding of the world? I just wonder. And then you have these irreverent American children where nobody respects anybody who's twice your age. Is that the source of creativity? There is no box. They don't even see a box. The proverbial box that you think outside of. I don't know. That may have delayed the ultimate collapse of America because we still have this creativity, but at the bottom of it, you need some foundation of knowledge. You can't be creative without any sort of sense of where to stand to be creative. That's the great value of sort of corporate infrastructure. It's a place to stand. And you say, here are the problems, can we solve them? But if you don't even have that infrastructure, perhaps we will just fade the way other cultures and nations, we, the United States, will fade the way other cultures and nations have faded unless you value problem solving, creativity, new ideas, and taking the risk that that involves, knowing that you might even fail. In my field, we have a saying. It said, if you stop making mistakes, you are no longer on the frontier. Because the mistakes you would make are mistakes no one has ever made before. Because no one has ever stepped there before. No, you don't want to make mistakes that others have made before. No, that's you just didn't do your homework. You're on the frontier? Yes. Most of those steps are mistakes. Welcome to the frontier. Because when you succeed in ways that everyone else says, how come I didn't think of that? Yeah. I just want to remind you where I come from. Not that I come from Saturn, but I care deeply about Saturn. And I just want to leave you with a photo of Earth. And that dot is Earth behind Saturn. Just a humbling image that every astrophysicist carries with them. When you think about the world, we try to think more globally. You rise up and say, I'm at a higher point now in my thinking. Now I look back and I see solutions that were not otherwise available to me. Because my point of view is higher. My point of view is stratospheric. In my field, that's all we do, is rise up as high as we can. Intellectually, emotionally, spiritually. Then you come back to the problem and say, hey, here's how we solve that. Here's the path that we now take. So I would want you to keep this vision, modern vision of the pale blue dot in your heart as you say to yourself, what next problems await my ingenuity? Thank you all for your time.